You can work hard to protect your home from evil entities, but sometimes something can still slip past. Perhaps you didn't consider warding your driveway or your roommate's friends. We speak with returning guest Laura Tempest Zakroff. Last time Tempest spoke with us, she told us all about sigil witchery. Now she tells of some of the chilling experiences she has had that have made her particularly attentive to protecting her home. Do you have your hamzas up? You'll want to after today's episode of Homespun Hates. Hello, hated loves. Welcome to Homespun Hates Halloween edition.
Halloween edition.
Samhain is here. I'm Becky.
I'm Diana.
And today on the show, we have a very special guest. She has been on the show earlier this season talking about her books about sigil witchery.
That's right. You've met her.
Laura Tempest Zakroff. She is an amazing person. She's an artist, visual artist, a performing artist, an author. She's made oracle decks. She has written books. She does performance dance. We love talking to her. We love reading her books. And we're so delighted that she's also very haunted.
Yeah.
She's on the show today to tell us about her myriad ghostly experiences. I think there's at one point where she's like, oh yeah, residual hauntings, whatever, that's no big deal.
They don't even count.
We're excited to bring on Tempest here in a few minutes. But before we do, speaking of the East Coast, which is where she is, Diana and I have been doing quite a bit of traveling lately. And most recently, we went to Philadelphia. We went on a spooky retreat organized by Lady Teal of Lady Teal's Curios, and we visited the Eastern State Penitentiary, which was amazing.
Bucket list item. But not only did we get to spend hours inside of a haunted jail from the 1820s, but we got to spend time in a haunted house in a haunted jail.
Yes, this time of year, they have Halloween nights at Eastern State Penitentiary. They do it every year, so if you miss it this year, no big deal. You can check it out next year. It is by far one of the most fabulous experiences I have ever been to. They had 5 haunted houses, and then they also had all this educational stuff interspersed with it. It was very classy. They had beer gardens with trapeze artists and fire pits with storytellers and dancers and hospital tours and audio tours, and it was just really well done. And then the haunted houses were really scary.
It was a wild time. It really was. It was almost cruel having to leave at the end of the night because I just wanted to move in. I was like, are you renting out cell blocks? Because I will rent one from you.
Yes, asbestos and all. The funny thing about this trip was when we were getting on the plane. The people on the plane were kind of quiet. We're boarding the plane in Atlanta, and mind you, there's several of us. So it's Diana and Amber and myself. And Jennifer, who you've heard from on this show, she came with us as well. And we all caught the same flight from Atlanta. There were other people, too, from other parts of the country. But this is us. We are all in Atlanta, so we all caught the same flight. And Diana, you and Amber were on seats like 5 rows back from us. And it was a rather small plane. And Jennifer and I, we get on and we hadn't talked to each other in a while. So we're just like blah, 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 blah. Usual girl talk, right? We get on the plane and immediately we start talking about who on the plane we would eat if the plane were to crash on a deserted island. And we start strategizing and making all of these plans. And after a while, we noticed that everyone else on the plane is really quiet. And I thought, nobody can hear us. Planes are noisy. You can never hear what's going on. Apparently, according to Diana...
5 rows back.
You heard every word.
Every word. Yeah, it was pretty much just Becky talking on the plane. It was fantastic. It was like she was right next to me.
Okay, well, maybe that's why everybody was quiet. They were like, oh, God. They heard us.
This tiny woman with blue hair is going to eat us all.
Well, yeah, so we were casually talking about cannibalism And then we did some tarot readings and we talked about plane crashes, wholly inappropriate for a tiny
Oh,
packed plane.
totally, totally. I mean, it's all plane talk, right? These topics come up when you're on a plane.
I'm sure there was discussion of defecation at some point
Oh, probably.
and the smell of the air, people's breath.
This is why I wear a mask on planes. I swear I wore a mask for the first time because I was scared of COVID, and then I was like, I don't have to smell anyone. And when I get to my destination, I'm nice and hydrated, moist, unlike everybody else is all like.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm gonna do it forever. I think one day everybody will be doing it. They're awfully comfortable.
Maybe you won't be as attractive then to us cannibals.
You won't know what I'm thinking.
Well, anyway, I apologize to anybody who happened to be on the flight who heard this small, blue-haired, crazy woman casually talking about cannibalism and other occult things and urine and shit
While reading tarot, right?
while reading tarot.
Yeah. Is there a particular spread called tray table? What does that spread look like?
These were the world's tiniest tray tables.
Oh my goodness. As planes get newer, they get teeny. Gracious.
So that was our flight to Philadelphia. It was one of those great times where I'm like, I'm glad I don't know anybody else here, except for the two people 5 rows back that really are going to find this amusing and not horrifying.
That don't mind if you eat us if we crashed. You've got carte blanche.
Before we completely horrify you away from any air travel, let's give one shout out to our patrons whom we love. We will have photos from our trip on our Patreon very soon. So look out for that. And if you're not a member of our Patreon,
There's this commercial.
today on the show, we have another repeat guest. We are so thrilled to bring on Laura Tempest Zakroff. She told us all about sigils and the books that she's written. And we talked so much during that episode that we did not even have a chance to talk to her about her ghost stories because, as you can imagine, she has a lot of them. Tempest, it is so good to have you back on the show today. Thank you so much for being
It was
here.
always so much fun. I was like, yay!
I actually got to see you a few months ago. You came to Mystic South.
Yeah, Mystic South in Hotlanta.
It was fun. I saw some other people that I've met through you and through Llewellyn Books, which is your publisher. There was a great turnout. It looked like a really, really fun festival. And you were there giving some talks and you had items for sale. You do a lot of art. You write. Tell us everything that you do for people that are new to hearing about you.
3 hours later.
How is it you have time for anything? You are so busy.
So, yes, I'm an artist, an author, a performer, primarily dance, modern traditional witch, based in New England, in the mighty state of Rhode Island.
Mighty.
And actually, we just got finished this past weekend doing the Witches Night Out Market, which is an event I've been producing. It started in Seattle and then I brought it to Rhode Island. We get 2,000-3,000 people come out there are like 75, 80 vendors and artisans, and you've got a whole hallway of readers, and we had Light at Labyrinth this year. Community altar. It's just a great event. And considering the climate of things in the world, I'm always like, how is this going to go? And knock on wood, we continually have positive events.
What's the name of that festival again?
The Witches Night Out Market, which we do currently twice a year. So April for kind of an early Beltane, and then in October for Samhain Halloween.
Are they both in Rhode Island?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yes, so it started in Seattle with a co-creator, my friend Charlie, who was running a nonprofit art space for Kabiri in Seattle. And so we're like, well, they have this great space. I have an idea for a market. Let's put these two things together. That kicked that off. And for Seattle, we were so excited that we get like 600 people. Like we topped out. We're like, oh my God, 600 people in Seattle. This is amazing. Because, like big cities, people just don't turn out. And then the first one we did in Rhode Island, I had to move the event 2 weeks beforehand because it showed 19,000 people were interested. And I thought, if 10% of these people show up, we are screwed, because I was like, we're going to do like, a dozen vendors in a small, like 2,000 square foot room.
Oh my
Uh-uh.
gosh.
And yeah, that was another, the first time like 2,000 people lined up, and they were like around the block, and it was
Oh,
madness.
wow.
Like,
That's awesome.
witches come out of the woodwork in New England.
That's amazing. So in all these places that you've lived, some of them have been haunted.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you choose where you would like to start.
I kind of want to start with the prelude. This happened just like a month or two ago. We have a favorite little diner we love to go to. And as we're sitting at the diner, I'm overhearing the next table talk about, like, it sounds like the most horrible Airbnb experience ever. And like, what's going on over there? And as we were checking out, the hostess, she's like, so would you pay to stay a night at the Conjuring House? And I'm like, excuse me? She's like, those folks over there, like, I don't know if those people who run the Conjuring House send them to the diner or not. She's like, they apparently come a lot. And she's like, yeah, they just tried to stay the night there. And I said, I have to be honest, I have lived in so many haunted places, I would not pay money.
I get this for free.
But it kind of made me wonder, like, if you've had so many haunted experiences, you're just like, yeah, ghosts are real. We know ghosts are real. Would I pay that much money?
But they're famous ghosts.
They're famous ghosts. Like, someone's not even the house. It's like a yurt. Like, you stay in a yurt in the backyard.
Oh, come on. Haunted yurt? Ugh.
Which,
Only in New England.
yeah, like, what? You go yurt. And then, like, the same week, I saw somebody say, like, can ghosts be outside? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, no, ghosts are only an interior phenomenon.
Yeah, they can't get wet or they'll melt.
Exactly.
Can't get rain on them.
Bless your heart. Oh, so I've been thinking a lot about that. So starting with the house I grew up in New Jersey. When my parents moved into it, it was the late 60s. And even though the house was fairly newly built, they had to redo a lot of things. And during that process, strange things happened in the house. When my mom was in the kitchen, the blender turned on by itself and it wasn't plugged in.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, like,
That's
I was like,
disturbing.
and my mom still bakes to this day. I think that would be my, like, I'm done.
Right?
And then the light fixture fell from the ceiling just a few feet after she had moved over. I distinctly remember maybe when I was like 4 or 5, they were lifting up the linoleum in the foyer, and there was a giant red and black pentacle and I'm like now I'm like, I am super fascinated. What was going on in that house?
Right?
Why did I not know about these things back then? I just thought it was neat.
Hang on. So the pentacle was underneath the linoleum floor, like on top of an old linoleum floor,
Yes.
or like carved into the subfloor?
So it was a linoleum red and black and white big star. And I'm pretty sure there was a circle around it, yeah. And then, like, we're not talking...
So it wasn't like somebody drew it on the
No,
ground
this was
before
like-
they put the new floor down. It was part of the
Somebody
design.
spent money.
Wow.
And we're not talking like a little tiny 1 foot. We're talking a space that was at least 4 feet by 4 feet.
And
And
linoleum?
linoleum! I am, like, choice.
Why not do some ceramic tile? Like, put some class into
Well,
that.
this is also the time of popcorn ceilings.
Yeah, there was no
Right,
class to
But
be
nobody
had.
linoleum, it is the height of innovation.
You can drop a cast iron skillet on it, it doesn't break.
Fine, it's good. Well, so they did the linoleum in the foyer, but the kitchen had carpet.
No, ew.
This is the true horror.
No wonder it was
This is the
haunted.
scary part of the story, right? The carpet.
Yeah, seriously. Ugh, gross.
That house, I'm not really sure if it was the activities of the people who lived there before. I've tried to find more information out about the house and I couldn't. But that area was a heavy indigenous population, especially there was a lot of little creeks and areas there. And so I'm thinking like part of it was activity from the previous residents, because I don't think anybody passed over there. But a lot of land spirits as well, right? So it's kind of a lot of chaotic things that eventually settled down when, of course, the construction was done, like the renovations were done on the house. But I definitely remember hearing footsteps and feeling unsettled in different spots. And I'm just like, oh, it's the ghost walking again.
Ooh.
So I was in that house until I was 15. And the next big spooky experience is a house I lived off of in Hope Street in Providence, Rhode Island, when I was going to college there. We have a lot of these classic 3-story buildings that were made for the mill workers because it was a heavily industrious town. As a young witchlet and go and like ward everything and do all the protections and such, And then I would cat sit for the residents above us. We had a second and a third floor. Nobody would stay at the third floor very long. I think while we were there, the second floor people moved out at least 3 times, and that's within 2 years. And the second floor person would always report, she's like, are you having electrical issues? I'm like, it's an old house. Sure. It's like, do you have weird smells? I'm like, it's an old house. Not really, but okay. And of course, we had a really creepy basement because every basement in Rhode Island is like, just add water and you get Cthulhu.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know what happened down here. We've had some interesting experiences because we used to do ritual inside the house for our small group. But after we moved out of the house, my professor from Brown, he contacted me and he's like, so did you ever have any of these experiences when you're living there? Because I have students who moved into your apartment. They're like, no, that sounds like what happened on the second and the third floor. Well, once we left, we, of course, took down our wards. And so they were experiencing this dark entity. There was a very masculine presence that was making them feel uncomfortable. It would lurk in the back stairs and then start moving in. And like, they need to do blessing. They need to do a ward.
yeah.
So that kind of dark, old, masculine energy, it just felt like somebody who was a really disgruntled worker, someone who's probably in his 50s, a smoker, who was angry about everything. That was the sort of feeling that you got. But there was also the energy of a young child who I would see outside the window. And I'm like, oh, look, there's a small blonde child in our backyard. Wait, not a neighbor's kid. Not a neighbor's kid. Oh, it's gone. All right, fine. Fine. It's more amusing type of things. Though the weirdest thing that happened in our apartment is that we had a roommate and he had a friend come over and there was an attachment on the friend. So you welcome in, you could bring him into the space, and our roommate was also Jewish, so he had the mezuzah on the door. And what we figured out is like he had gotten through the first set of wards, and by the time you got to the mezuzah, it detached. I think it got knocked off the gentleman coming in. Because if you figure you're going through kind of like washing the dishes, you go the first pass through and then you go through the dishwasher. And it was stuck in that space because there was his bedroom, we had the mezuzah, and then there was our bedroom, which also had an altar in it. So it couldn't go anywhere. It was sort of in this liminal space, right? Like where the bathroom was and this little tiny bit of hallway. And the reason we figured out this, so we were having just a nice little, I think it might have been a Samhain or a Yule ritual. And we noticed the cats were acting weird. Cats during rituals are usually like, I'm going to be here, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to walk through your circle because I'm a cat. Right?
Yes.
And we go like, what's going on? Why are the cats fighting? And you could see in the corner in this hallway right by the door was this kind of, I'm called a gremlin. There's this dark spot of energy that is about the size of a cat, but you knew it wasn't a cat. And that's what they were responding to. And we never had anything particularly like this. That was this kind of low energy entity that was just unsettling. And like everybody else was like, I can see it too. Because we didn't do anything special during ritual. Right? It's just wine, right? And so then you have a whole bunch of witches like, all right, here we go. We're going to almost do like that thing from Practical Magic. We're like, we're going to cleanse, we're going to banish, we're going to sweep this out and get rid of it. Now, we did manage to do that. And you can tell the lightness came into the room and the energy's gone. But one of our cats wasn't so smart. And so she was always looking for it. And she was never quite the same after that. So that was a very strange encounter.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So did you inform this friend that they had brought this in?
Yeah, we told the roommate afterwards because there's like, what was going on? And they're like, well, we're not really sure. And that's what we put it together was like, here's this person who's never been in our house before. And it only showed up when that happened. So it was all very linked in a short amount of time.
At that point, you had a very renewed sense of trust in your ward abilities. Because obviously that worked like a charm. That gremlin that came off of your roommate's friend, do you think that might be what haunted the student that moved in after you moved out?
No, it definitely, if you kind of think of a demented trash panda,
Oh.
it had an animalistic energy to it. And I'm very much convinced that the energy that came into the apartment afterwards was that older, masculine, lurking energy that just kind of was waiting on the stairs. Like, you go down to your laundry and just like, I can't wait for the laundry to be done.
Yeah.
You know, and
I feel that. I've been there.
No, come on, towels. Why? What's going on?
When it's bedtime and you need something from down there, you just go, well, I guess I'm not going to have it until morning.
Yeah, this is fine.
So for people who don't know, a mezuzah, it dates way back to, I guess, Exodus. It's a protection that you put on your door. It's like a little tube and it has a prayer in it that's been blessed by a rabbi, and you put it on your door frame and you face it towards the entrance. And traditionally, you're supposed to put it on every room of the house that somebody would sleep in, as well as the front door. Am I getting this correct?
That's my understanding too. And our roommate's very interesting. Now, on my father's side, Jewish heritage, but Reformed Jew, so it's sort of like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But he was actually a convert, so he was really getting into that. And I would have totally been like, please put one by the front door too. But he just wanted to put it by his bedroom. And I kind of also wonder if like us doing ritual and connecting with the ancestors or whatever happening, like that kind of also opened up things a little bit in that space that allowed that to happen too. You get enough witches in one spot, things can...
Right. There's a lot of energy at play, definitely. We just put mezuzah that we've had in storage for maybe a decade. We just put it on our front door, so I'm looking to see if it helps.
Yeah, you probably have like all the evil eyes too. Like I have upped my game.
Yes.
You come to my house now, the front entranceway is all different evil eyes and hamsas and the brass ornaments from tack, and we have all that. And then I have these 2 Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs that my grandparents brought back from whatever trip that has, of course, unicorns. So I'm a little like, of course you love unicorns. So I'm like, I've had these 2 hex signs with unicorns on them. And so one always goes by the front and one always goes by the back door. Like, and every entrance in our house is set up.
Nice.
What happens if you do all that to protect your house, but something's already inside? Does it get trapped, like your little gremlin thing?
That's a good question. Well, ideally, when you're setting up protections, you should be feeling out what's going on in the house and communicating with it. I think it's in my book, Weave the Liminal, where I talk about the practice of people just sort of want to smudge the fuck out of everything. They're like, I just need to take some sage. And it's like, well, there are some entities you want to keep in the house, right? Which was great segue into our next story. Because if you take it from an animistic perspective, right, that everything has an essence to it, a soul and energy to it. And houses pick up all of the energy of the people who've lived there, as well as like what's in the neighborhood and what are the nature spirits, the elements, all these different things. Who built the house? All of these things contribute to a kind of a collective spirit. And sometimes you'll have somebody who's an owner who loved the house so much, and their energy also, not to say it's like it's super conscious, but I feel like it gets imprinted onto the house spirit. So if you have a really good caretaker that's looking out for you, you don't want to be like, get out. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
It's kind of like insecticide and pollinators.
Right.
You gotta be selective.
Yeah, you really want to check that out. So it's like, if you're feeling like there's something you don't want before you set that up, that's where you get out the Clorox, the spiritual Clorox, and set that up.
So you said this was a segue into your next story.
In Seattle, my partner and I moved into a house that our friends were moving out of. We were kind of getting settled into this place, and I had stayed there like a couple trips out when I was visiting Seattle. So I was familiar with the house, and I was like, this is great. We're paying less in a house than we were paying for 2 apartments of rent. Great. And our own space. And as we're kind of getting set up, the house wasn't very clean, just because you get, busy lifestyles. Not everyone was raised by an Italian Sicilian woman.
Yeah.
So our first couple of days there, it felt a little bit disruptive, and something was very much off. And I'm kind of just like wanting to suss out what's going on here. Even something tripped me as I was going down the stairs. Luckily, I was okay. But I was like, all right, I'm going to pay attention. What's going on here? Then we methodically went through, and as we're cleaning, we started doing a little bit of cleansing and a little bit of like, we're here to take care of the house. We recognize that you might not have been taken care of well for the last 10 years or even 20 to 30 years, because our landlord, he bought it when he was in college or right after college. So you had like college boys in there and whoever was renting before that. And the previous relationship was not so copacetic. So if you have relationship issues, that also feeds into a house. So I'm like, here we are. We would like to make a happy home. And it started to shift. And a friend came to pick up a few more things. She's like, so I just thought I should let you know, supposedly someone committed suicide in the basement.
Supposedly.
I'm like, oh. Interesting to let me know after the fact, but okay, all right.
Yeah.
You did mention that the rent on this place is a lot lower than other places you've been.
Being the Gemini that I am, I'm like, can I find any information about someone passing on? The house was built in 1905, so it had over 100 years to, at that point, have some shit happen in that neighborhood. But I didn't really feel that particular energy. I did feel that there was a sadness to the house, and I think it was because it had been neglected. So as we start cleaning things up and we set up our altars and our protections, it shifted. And a really funny phenomena would happen in the basement, because she pointed over to where she thought it happened, and the ceilings were really low. So again, I'm not really sure. I don't think you can hang yourself very easily down there. I don't.
Gotcha.
There are other methods possibly, but you'd have to be really short. But in this one particular corner, I started calling it the desk of requirement, because whenever we need to help with the house, it would show up.
Oh, no!
We couldn't find a hammer appeared there. We were looking for a certain kind of nails. They were there, nails and screws. These weren't there before. Where are they coming from? Weird. Suddenly, a box fell, and there was packaging for the windows to help seal the windows, because we were the really old windows. It definitely shifted in the house, and we had this spirit that's here, personal lows. That wasn't top of the line. It's with paint. But at the same time, we had this very beneficial spirit that shifted and became much more happy. We would tour a lot. So my partner and I would go on tour for 6 weeks at a time, touring. I'm doing workshops, he's doing music. And a couple of times we, especially one instance, we left sort of with a lick and a promise for the house cleaning. Just enough for the cat sitter, because we'd have someone stay at the house. And at that time, the heater went. Our poor cat sitter's the heater's gone. I'm okay, we have different heaters. You can put them into this one room, and we'll get the landlord in there. And the guy comes in, and he's I don't see what's wrong with this heater. It's there should be nothing wrong. It should be working. And so we replaced some things out, and it started working again. And then we went on another tour where we did the same thing, where we didn't clean so well, and we're sorry, we're coming home from one event, we're running to another, sorry, house. And this time it had an electrical fry that he's again, I don't understand how this could happen.
So the house is very much, if you don't take care of me, I won't take care of you kind of attitude.
Yeah, it's and don't leave or we're going to take the heating out.
Yeah.
The house is as long as you take care and you're here, I appreciate you being here, but when you're not here,
fuck some shit up.
It fucks some shit up.
But your cat was there.
Oh, yeah, four cats, yeah.
So that's 3 haunted houses in a row. But I suspect it doesn't end there.
So our current house is from 1927.
See, that's what you keep buying these old houses.
I like the architecture.
Yeah.
I get it. And they're well made.
Exactly. That was the thing. I don't want to buy anything that was built after 1960, especially in New England. The construction's not that great. So we hunted down this house. It's fairly quiet. It's probably one of the quietest houses that I've lived in, because I've been in many apartments too that have the repeater type of spirits. It's the 9 o'clock white lady walking through, and it's not conscious. It's not anything. You're just have a nice night.
Have you had a 9 o'clock white lady?
That one wasn't so exciting. I was just oh, there's there. Actually, before we get to the house, this goes to the what would I pay to stay at a haunted place? When you're on the road and you're staying in old places, especially in California, in New England, anywhere people have lived. But
right,
folks always think we're going to put you up at this grand hotel in Placerville that's haunted. I'm great, that's great. Can I sleep? That's what I worry about.
Yeah.
I don't mind seeing stuff. I don't mind, the footsteps and the walking and the talking and that sort of thing. What I do mind is when I only have 6 hours to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want anything.
Yeah, and something's hey, you want to play? No, I do not.
Yes. Diana always gives me crap because I will see things in the middle of the night. And I'm going back to sleep. She's how can you do that? I'm because I need my sleep.
How many times do you have the opportunity to just roll over and observe a ghost?
Well,
frequently.
Yeah.
Too frequently, apparently.
This is where I probably picked up the habit of taking Benadryl so much on the road, because I just needed something to just knock me out and not not have to deal with like things that
Yeah.
are like, hey, I'm gonna poke you. I'm like, I'm sure you're a very nice spirit, and I'm sorry for whatever happened to you, but I'm not here to babysit you.
Right. Right. Yes.
Let me
We
sleep.
sleep.
Very tired.
Yes. So you're saying your current house is somewhat quiet.
It's been pretty quiet, except for there's a couple of times when Nathan has been visiting his family back out in Washington or California.
And Nathan's your partner?
Yep. And it's definitely during the pandemic, so things are extra on edge. I'm home with just me and the cats. I don't tend to have sleep paralysis. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times it's really happened. It's happened twice now that I had sleep paralysis while he's gone and feel that somebody had come into the bedroom. And two is like I've been working in my studio. So my studio is on the second floor of the house and we have wood floors, so things echo. And of course, we had 4 cats, so cats are such a thing. But one particular time when he was gone, I could hear someone come in downstairs. I was doing a Zoom for my Patreon, and I'm like, hold on a minute, I need to go find an instrument and see what the heck's going on. Nobody was in the house. Nothing. All the cats were like, yeah. They were like, it's no big deal. There has been a time where he was just out and I thought he came home and I could even hear him. And I came downstairs, no Nathan. So it's that same sort of thing. I'm not sure if it's related to the sleep paralysis and that particular energy there. Of course, every time this has happened, I have done another like, here's a deep cleanse, get out. Because no, you don't come into my home.
Do you think it's something that was here before you moved into the house and that's why it's able to keep returning?
It could be. So this area that we live in, Rhode Island is very well known for having the mafia here. Capitol Hill is the main area where you can visually see the activity. We live in the neighborhood that is where they would live. So there's where you work, and then there's the quiet little suburban neighborhood right there.
It only happens when your partner is gone, though. So what do you think it is about him that repels this thing? Is it just the masculine presence, or do you think there's something else that he's doing that he may not even be aware of?
That's an interesting thought. I would lean towards the masculine presence. Obviously, the not to say the mount of the house is home. I feel like it's like, I'm here to watch over you and protect you, but I'm going to make you feel really uncomfortable at the same time.
Creepy. Well, I'm glad that you shove it out every time it shows up until that wears off and it decides it's going to sneak back in again.
I'm going to keep adding more evil eyes. Right. And I need to track it more of like exactly when it is, because it's more in the springtime too. So it's possible that it's repeating a certain instance. It has worked out a few times that it's been like April, May when he's caught.
Does your partner have any insight? Has he encountered this at all?
Hasn't really reported. There has been some strange things in the driveway with the key fobs and such, and to me that's like, is that like an electrical disturbance sort of cloud thing, that happens? Have you ever had the issue where your key fob, the battery's fine, but your car doesn't unlock?
Yes.
My car does this thing where I hit the fob and it unlocks and then immediately locks itself again. And it really only does that when it's in the driveway. It doesn't do that when it's out at a grocery store or something.
Yeah, so driveways are strange liminal spaces too, right? So we often ward our houses, protect and bless our homes, but we don't think about the driveway. And we don't think about who's pulling in, pulling out, like what we pass through as we're driving. I try not to think too much when I'm on the highway, when I get little flashes of things. I'm like, well, that was something horrible that happened here. Great.
Keep driving.
I went out and I did some sigils on the driveway and added additional blessings just to, depending on the shape of the driveway and the house and the situation or the parking lot, right? Sometimes things just trap, or it's like a freeway, right? So it kind of directs things to the back. And if you have like a little chaos spot or a messy sort of garage, like that kind of collects not the most beneficial energy in there. One last little thing, my grandparents' house, which was a row house in Philadelphia, a proper row house, that was always an interesting place because it was very much the generational family thing going on. So when I was really little, my great-great-grandfather was still there, living up on the third floor. So this little tiny Sicilian man. And my great-great-grandmother had passed away in the house from complications with diabetes. But I would stay a lot with my grandparents because there's a big gap in years. I'm 7 and 9 years younger than my older brothers. And I think my parents are like, well, they're old enough to go to camp and we'll send the little one across the way. And I remember a very strange dream that I had, that there were soldiers in the bathroom.
What?
And particularly, I would say, like, knowing I know now, World War II soldiers. And my grandfather was a Marine in World War II. I felt like it was a sort of this buddy energy. Like these 2 or 3 guys were kind of hanging out in that space, and I was just like, "Who are these cool soldiers?" It's just like Bash.
Just had some good-natured soldiers bantering in your bathroom.
Yeah, it's like, who are these? So now, like, I'll go back going, why would I have this dream? There was only one bathroom too in that house. Why would I see them in these particular uniforms? And I wasn't scared of them, so it wasn't like, ooh, scary soldiers or like bloody sort of things. It was just sort of this like, hey, we're here to hang out with Marty.
Was this a recurring dream or just one time?
I think it only happened once.
And you're sure it was a dream? Because sometimes when you're young...
Right? I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. Because I would stay in what was my mom's old bedroom, which was right next to the bathroom. And so even if you get up in the middle of the night, you'd have to go down a step and up a step and around the corner to where that was. And I just remember like being like right there in like the bathtub, like of all things.
Ghost-like bathrooms.
The other thing I learned about that house too is it was actually multiple apartments before my grandparents lived there, and then they were able to buy it, and then it became one whole house. So at some point, I think they lived on the second floor. So that used to be the kitchen area for the second floor apartment.
So it could have been somebody else's buddies, not necessarily your grandfather's.
Could have been somebody else's buddies, or it could have been before they all went off. Things I wish I had asked when he was still alive.
Yeah. Those are hard things to ask, though. Like, why are there soldiers in your bathroom, Grandpa? Wow, Tempest. So many amazing stories as usual. You are such a brilliant storyteller, and you do so many amazing things with the performance art and the visual art and the writing. And then you also make oracle decks. Give us just a little bit of a rundown of some of the things that you do and where people can find out more about you and where they can purchase your things.
All right. So I think right now I'm at 11 books. So if folks are interested, 11 books and decks. If you're interested in learning more about witchcraft from a very grounded modern experience, Weave the Liminal and Anatomy of a Witch. If you're looking into art and magic, sigil witchery and visual alchemy, those are 2 kind of very popular books. And that's open to everybody. You don't have to be a witch in order to use them. The oracle decks, the liminal spirits, and the anatomy of a witch. Actually, there's a 3rd oracle deck that'll be on the way some point at the end of 2024, I think, and it's the sigil witchery oracle.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yay!
So it's going to be a great design tool. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Yes. That was one of the things that I loved about your books. As a designer, I've said before, I wish I had this book in grad school because I would actually know how to make a decent logo now.
The true graphic design secrets. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm very excited for your new Oracle deck. And I forgot to mention that your Anatomy of a Witch Oracle deck, I love. I could fully endorse that deck, and it's gorgeous. I've done many readings for friends with it. Everybody loves that deck. And what's your website again so people can find all of this?
Tempest Zakroff.com is sort of the mother website to all the things. Or if you find me on Instagram at alchemy.arts, that's OWLKEYME.arts. There's a link tree there, which is probably the easiest way to look at all the things.
Right. And you have a Patreon as well, which we are members, and we love getting to see all of the art that you produce on there, and you do have those weekly Zoom calls, which are amazing. Can people get to your Patreon from that link tree as well?
Yes, it's like one of the little social media links. I'm looking forward to, I need to catch up on a bunch of episodes and see things, because I was like, I've been going nonstop and traveling. I couldn't even be there to watch the basement. I'm so mad.
Oh.
We will eventually get that loaded on our Patreon. It's just so many gigs of data. It's taking
4-hour video. We're cutting out
the
parts where we're just standing around waiting for ghosts to talk to us. Yeah.
It was pretty freaky, but hilarious at the same time.
Funny enough.
I can't wait to actually get that posted. Well, Tempest, again, thank you so much for chatting with us. I know that you'll be in Mystic South again next summer, so hopefully we'll be able to see you then. And then Witches Night Out Market is going to be in April.
I will be at PaganaCon, which is in Minneapolis. That's usually over the equinox in March. Okay. And then shortly after that is also Sacred Space in Maryland. So it's going to be a bit of a quiet winter and then a crazy spring, and then we're off and running to all the things.
Right.
Cool.
That is amazing. Hopefully we'll be able to see you at some of those. and Tainted Loves, you can also attend those as well and meet Tempest in
Come
person.
hang out. We'll talk about spooky stuff.
Yay! I'm really interested in the Witches' Night Out. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Oh, that was amazing. Hainted Loves, you heard it here first. That's what happens when you get enough witches in one spot. You have a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.